Our first guest tonight is an actor who's been a beloved part of our lives ever since we had lives. He hosts 2 podcasts and puts out fictional fires in 911 Lone Star Monday nights on Fox. Please welcome Rob Lowe. Good to see you. Were you dressed as a firefighter earlier today?
I was. I did 2 rescues already. I've saved 2 lives since I came.
Wow.
Just in today alone.
You're also, not only you're saving lives, you're hosting 2 podcasts, I mentioned.
I have Literally with Rob Lowe, which is conversations with interesting people. You were one of my favorite guests I've had.
I had fun with you. You know what? No one has ever let me go on and on for 17 minutes about Mr. Roboto before. The Styx song.
Listen, if you're not interested in 17 minutes of you and I talking about Mr. Roboto, you're just not our audience.
You're not our people. That's
not
right.
our people.
And we did do that.
We did 17 minutes about Mr. Roboto.
It was fun.
It was so fun.
Do you talk about Mr. Roboto with everyone?
Yeah, I do.
You do.
Should, you know, I mean, Oprah, big Mr. Roboto. I mean, you know.
How many times has Oprah been on your show?
She's been on twice.
That's unbelievable. How many of these podcasts have you done?
I just did my 90th.
Your 90th, and you've had Oprah 2 times.
That's pretty cool, right? Yeah.
That's pretty. How do you get Oprah the second time? I can see the first time you've probably known her for years, but what do? You go sit in her vegetable garden and say, "I'm not leaving"?
See, this is why you've done however many shows you've done, because you think like a producer. And I'm the same. She's my neighbor, and you ask her, she doesn't get back to you. You ask her, she refers you to Stedman.
Oh, really?
You ask her, then she asks Gail. And if you ask her and she gives you the cold shoulder again, and then you go and egg her house. And she says yes.
Can you imagine if you egged Oprah's house? Oh, man.
First of all, you'd have to have an arm like Aaron Rodgers to get it from the gate to the house.
That's true,
You know what I'm saying? It's a big
The suspect list would be pretty small.
Yes.
But also, there'd probably be a volcano that opened under your home or something like that.
Yeah.
So you had Oprah on 2 times.
I've had Oprah on, and I've had, people that I know and love, like McConaughey and Gwyneth Paltrow and Magic Johnson and,
Charles Barkley was on your show?
Charles Barkley. And then in music, I'll do like Lindsey Buckingham of Fleetwood Mac, and I get to nerd out.
Yeah, right.
I had Kenny Loggins on. I go, why did you use Michael McDonald in every background vocal you ever did?
Why wouldn't you use Michael McDonald for every background vocal?
Right?
I have a funny story about Kenny Loggins, something that happened here. Maybe if you happen to have him on again, you can ask him
Tell
about
me,
it.
give it to me.
Tom Cruise was here, and we thought, it would be fun to have Kenny Loggins in it, because he did,
Danger Zone.
Danger Zone, right? Guess what? They'd never met before. That was the first time they'd ever met, was here on the show.
Well, he told me a great story that I said, how did you get your music in Top Gun? And I just assumed they would go to him.
Right.
He's Kenny Loggins.
Right.
No.
What?
He has to sit in a theater with, like, the guys from Journey and Whitesnake.
Are you
and
kidding
Donna
me?
Summer. And they're all, like, scheming about how they get their songs in it. And he goes, you know what? When he saw the volleyball scene, he goes, no one's going to write a song for the volleyball scene. I will. and that's how he got his first song in. And then Danger Zone, the lead singer, canceled. And Jojiro Moroder called Kenny and said, you're already on the soundtrack. Would you come in and sing?
Wow.
That's how that happened.
That's crazy.
This is the kind of nuggets you get.
Yeah, that's a good nugget. That's better than a chicken nugget. Speaking of nuggets, you had Gwyneth Paltrow on the show.
Yes.
And you learned something very, very interesting about her. Very interesting. I mean, personally interesting.
About my wife?
Yeah, about what your wife. She taught your wife. Or your wife taught her.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, here's the thing. The good news is my wife doesn't watch anything I do, so she won't be watching this.
Okay,
so I can say.
All right.
Right. But my wife, when Gwyneth was a little precocious 18-year-old, my wife was still a makeup artist on a movie that Gwyneth's mother, Blythe Danner, was working on. Gwyneth came to visit, and Cheryl would give her cigarettes, and they'd go out and smoke behind the trailers. And she was like a big sister to Gwyneth, still is. And apparently, Gwyneth told me on the podcast, I had no idea, but I must thank her, that my wife taught Gwyneth how should we say this on network television?
I think perform oral sex would be the way to go. Which is a very nice thing for her to do.
Or as I like to say, Chris Martin and Brad Falchuk, you're welcome.
But I feel like apologies are in order to this young man who tweeted, after reading this story, Gwyneth Paltrow reveals the sex tip she picked up from Ronaldo's wife. 2020's been a wild ride, but this has settled it for me. I choose death by murder hornets. This is your son.
I get it. I get it. That's not a visual that those boys are interested in.
No.
I mean, I think that the therapy bills will be coming to me for that one.
You mentioned in passing, and speaking to John Stamos, that there was a time in the 80s where you and Jack Nicholson went on the road with the Lakers.
Yes.
What year was that? Do you remember?
I feel the sports fans will know better. It was Lakers, Detroit Pistons.
Oh, like 87.
I say 86, 87, 86-ish.
Okay. Oh, so you went to...
On the road to Detroit.
Oh, just to
finals.
Detroit. Did you go on the team plane?
Well, I had, but Pat Riley ended up barring me from going on the team plane and really barred me from staying in the team hotel.
Why? What did you do?
Well, Jimmy, it was the 80s.
Uh-huh.
And
Are you saying you were a bad influence on the Lakers? Really? Wow. Oh.
I mean, what a badge of honor to be banned by Pat Riley. Come on.
Yeah, no kidding.
Right?
No kidding. That's crazy.
True story.
Do you remember any moments or anything you observed or?
It might have been when I gave a player who shall go nameless a Quaalude, and they went on an over 60 shooting slump.
Okay, yeah. All right.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Right now, people are going, who shot over 60?
Wow. Was it really over 60 or you?
In all seriousness, I think it was over 32. Really?
Well, it wasn't AC Green.
Oh, stop it! Stop it! You're making me in trouble.
It has to be a guard because nobody could be. Like if you're right, I mean, there's no way Kareem went 0 for 30,
Somebody.
Yeah, interesting. Wow, that's good stuff.
Really true.
Holy.
But that's what's fun about doing the podcast, because where else are those stories gonna come up?
And nobody has better stories than you do, really.
Really
Well,
nice
we come back, Rob Lowe has more wonderful stories about Quaaludes and the Lakers and oral sex when we come back.
What have we done?
That's between you and them. Not my problemo. I'm gonna make a little donation to your health fund and be on my way. And you can keep the blanket.
Te dije que debíamos dejarlo afuera en el frío.
Yo sé.
Cobarde.
Yeah, that's one ass-kicking firefighter right there. Rob Lowe is back. That is 911 Lone Star.
Headbutt.
I was not expecting that
Not
at all.
expecting the headbutt.
Yeah, no. Nor was he, obviously.
He's a coyote, and those people needed help.
That's right. And there's one thing you hate, it's coyotes.
And human trafficking. Jimmy.
And human trafficking.
I won't stand for it.
Do you think you could put out a fire if there was one on the set?
Oh, bro, I can fake help in almost any area you want.
Like, are there guys around for situations like that?
The thing is, like with actors, you fake learn how to look like you know what you're doing. In some, like if God forbid somebody would get sick in the audience, I could look like I was helping them. It would be amazing. but you don't actually want me putting out a fire.
I see. But you wouldn't be able to perform CPR or any of those things.
I could probably do CPR. I do know a lot about. Actually, you do know a ton. It's surprising the level of knowledge, and it does help in life if you ever run up against that stuff. But it's like, you do like that. That's a fake fight. I didn't hit him.
Right.
So my biggest fear is I ever get in a fight, I'm going to purposely miss everybody by 3 inches and get killed.
Your son, Johnny, is a writer on the show, right?
Yes, writes on
Your
Lone Star.
brother, Chad, directs some of the episodes of the show. How does that, he's your little brother. Do you take direction from your little brother?
He knows enough to approach me correctly.
I see. Okay. Yeah, because you could almost punch him.
I'd punch him.
Right,
I'd really punch him. But it is kind of like, I never would have thought, as an 8-year-old in Ohio wanting to be an actor and wanting to come out here, that there would come a day where I'd be the lead on this show, directed by my brother and written by my son.
Yeah, that's crazy, right?
Really kind of cool. Yeah.
Speaking of This is this week's People magazine. You were on the cover of People magazine. How I Survived Hollywood. I feel like it's too soon to make that declaration.
I might not survive this interview. I mean, it could end at any moment. I'm well aware.
This is your most recent major magazine cover. This, I believe, to be, and correct me if I'm wrong, your first magazine cover. This is from 1983, Interview Magazine. Andy Warhol was one of the editors of this
And it was Andy Warhol's magazine.
He owned this magazine.
Owned it. It was his vision. Yeah.
Did you know Andy?
I did. I was lucky enough to spend a pretty significant amount of time with him. My biggest Andy's real memory was we all went to that famous Diana Ross concert that got rained out, and afterwards we kind of took shelter in a restaurant. It was one of those restaurants where you could like draw on the tables with crayons.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they had the like
the paper and the thing. Yeah.
And Andy was like, "I have a game." That's not really a great Andy Warhol, but you believed it, right?
We've never had dinner with him, so it seemed perfect to me.
He's like, "So let's all draw in secret, so no one can look at what we're drawing. The best version we can think of a." I was like, all right, unless I'm young, single, that's in my wheelhouse, you know what I'm saying?
You're like, which kind are you looking for here?
Yeah, so I'm like, I draw like a gynecological, like out of the Joy of Sex version, and everybody's doing, and I show mine, and the other person shows it, and then we get to Andy, and he reveals it, and of course, he's drawn a cat.
A cat, yeah, right, yeah.
And I feel ashamed and embarrassed. But the thing was, I was too young and wasn't bold enough I wanted to take, and we signed it. He said, oh, and now you have to sign it, because that's what artists do. Uh-huh. And a signed Andy Warhol was sitting on that table, and I was too young and like scared and naive to take it.
Do you think the busboy got it, or how?
I heard, and he talks about it in the Andy Warhol diaries.
Wow.
So it's in the diaries, he talks about the story. And I heard that it sold about 10 years ago for $1.5 million.
Really? Yeah. And how about your vagina? How much did that sell for?
Zero.
Well, boy, you really have the best stories. And two podcasts to tell them on, literally.
And Parks and Recollection.
Parks and Recollection.
You like Parks and Recreation?
You tell all the stories from the show.
It's all the stories hosted by Alan Yang, who's one of the great writers, and he and I go through every single episode.
And also 911 Lone Star, Monday nights, 8 o'clock on Fox. Rob Lowe, everybody. We'll be back with Francia Raisa. Hi, I'm Jimmy Kimmel. Click below to subscribe to our YouTube channel, or if you want to be that way about it, don't.